I vividly remember the excitement I felt when my family and I were about to board a plane for Italy. This time around, we were going to explore its northernmost area and meet my cousins and my sister while we were there. As I was headed through security, going towards my gate, I noticed something that impacted me more than I realized at the time. An older woman who didn't speak English was seemingly lost, and she was pleading for help with any passing travelers. She tried to make eye contact with the passing group, but they paid her no mind. She tried to frantically wave at another group, but they refused to engage with her as well. Her panic turned to hopelessness, and she was resigned to sitting down by the bathroom wall, seemingly on the verge of tears. No one in my family understood the language she spoke, so we couldn't help. But that's when something strange happened. A younger woman approached the older woman, took a deep breath, and started speaking a language we didn't understand. Immediately, the older woman's face lit up. The younger woman's proficiency in the language seemed shaky at best, as she would pause and stutter frequently. But as she spoke, the older woman's composure became increasingly better. She became more and more animated with every single word. After just a few minutes, the anguish had completely vanished from her face, and just like that, the two of them went their separate ways with smiles on their faces. A polyglot is a person who knows and is able to use multiple languages. But you don't need to be a seasoned polyglot with a mastery of multiple languages to make connections with people from around the world. In reality, all we need is basic knowledge of a language and a bit of confidence to make lasting friendships that transcend political and geographical boundaries. So why don't we do this? The truth is that foreign language learning is declining in all levels of education, even up to the college level. 3 consecutive censuses by the Foreign Language Association have shown decline since 2009. More specifically, from 2009 to 2021, enrollment in language learning classes has dropped roughly 30%. Theories as to why this occurred are abundant, and many blame lack of government funding. But I think there's another reason for this as well. Translation technology is becoming increasingly accurate and efficient. Now, I'll be honest. I use translation technology when I need it, and I think it's an extremely useful tool when you're in a pinch. But there's a certain sense of personal connection you lose when you just communicate via translation technology. When I was in Japan last summer as an exchange student, I knew just enough Japanese to converse with my host family without using Translate most of the time. I'll never forget the looks on their faces when they realized I was willing to speak just a bit of their language with them. That connection still means the world to me to this day. Furthermore, non-digital communication, even at a minuscule level, despite language barriers, makes far more of an impact than just communicating using Translate technology. Another thing I noticed is that the US seems to pale in comparison to the language education systems of other countries. I've had the opportunity to meet students from all across the world, and their motivation to learn another language, especially English, is admirable. In many cases, these students are learning 2 languages simultaneously. For example, I have a friend in her 20s named Iris from Amsterdam, and she speaks Dutch, English, French, and German, and she was required to do an assignment in another country by her school in order to graduate. Another family friend, Hamir, who lives in India, speaks Punjabi, Hindi, and English, and he's not quite 10 years old. The students I met in Japan at Ichifuna High School are also making English a priority. Meanwhile, in the US, funding cuts mean that American students are not able to prioritize language learning. Considering that we reside in a global economy, sacrificing our means of connecting with the world seems counterintuitive. I'm not sure that the US, which produces some of the brightest minds in the world, sees this as a critical need. With just a little dedication, you can communicate with people from all different walks of life. But this means you can't just resort to your mother tongue. In order to experience the full physiological and social benefits of language learning, you should try an entirely unfamiliar language. This may mean trying a language that has always sounded cool to you, or one that belongs to a country you've always wanted to visit. But the physiological benefits of this may not be as obvious as the social ones. So let me share some research with you. While they perform worse than adults in nearly every cognitive task, children absorb languages much better. This is thanks to an undeveloped prefrontal cortex that uses non-declarative memory rather than declarative memory. In other words, you have better neural networks for habits and patterns when you're younger, and this is what language learning is based on. Now, this isn't to say that if you're older, you can't learn a new language. It just means that the older you get, the more your brain will shift away from non-declarative learning. All of that to say this: you should start learning languages now, because the longer you wait, the harder it will be. Another thing worth mentioning is that studies have shown that people who invest time and effort in language learning have improved memory and increased protection against dementia. So if you start learning a language now, you'll see huge physiological benefits later on in your life. Language learning also comes with a healthy dose of discomfort. You need to become comfortable with making mistakes during the process. Language learning is initially discouraging, and communicating with people who speak a different language can be extremely intimidating. But you have to take a leap of faith even if you aren't 100% confident in your abilities. Language learning is hard, and reaching out to people who speak different languages is even harder. So because of this, even just a little bit of effort can speak volumes about the strength of your character. In freshman year, I made the decision to become the president of the Japanese Exchange Club. I was extremely nervous and hesitant about this decision because I knew that people would frown upon someone like me taking on that role. I had just started learning the language, and I don't have Japanese heritage. But pushing myself to continue in that position, despite the negative comments I received, has been one of the most enriching decisions of my life. The highlight of my time as president culminated in the school exchange trip we had to Japan last summer. I was the student spokesperson of our group, so I addressed the entire student body of Ichifuna in Japanese, as well as the mayor of Funabashi City in the city hall in the same fashion. But above all, the memories I made during this exchange, as well as the friendships, will stay in my heart forever, and I'm beyond grateful that I could be such a part of an amazing experience. That experience was worth every ounce of prior discomfort. The final reason why you should learn another language is because the tools to do so are more available than ever. There's an abundance of online resources like Duolingo, Babbel, Rosetta Stone, just to name a few. The benefits of these softwares is that you can learn at your own pace, and you can reinforce vocabulary and sentence structure as many times as you need. Even if you aren't aiming for fluency, 10 to 15 minutes a day is perfectly fine to build a sufficient and solid foundation. And in my experience, that's enough to make connections around the world. To those of you who know me well, you're probably wondering, why am I, who's only fluent in English, giving this talk about multilingual education? That's the exact reason why I'm giving this talk. I'm speaking to you not as a polyglot, but as someone who has just started my language learning journey. I'm not even close to learning or mastering any other language because I'm just a novice. But I've realized that all you need is basic knowledge and just a bit of confidence, and once you take that leap of faith, you'll be well on your way. As a graduating senior, I intend on studying international affairs throughout my time in college. Beyond that, I want to travel the world and teach English wherever I can. I encourage all of you to take advantage of any international travel opportunities that your school or your job may provide. The world will become a lot less scary because of it. In fact, I think it'll open up a myriad of new opportunities for you. You'll be able to make new friends, break existing notions of the world, live and work in a new place, help others in need, strengthen your mind, exhibit more global empathy, and fully immerse yourself in our world. Diversity is what makes humans beautiful, but it's difficult to see the world for what it really is when you're only willing to see one side. Thank you.